Welcome. In this explainer, we're going to dive into the elegant regulatory circuit that controls your body's metabolism. It's called the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis, and we'll explore just how this system acts like a sophisticated thermostat, keeping your whole body in balance.
So here's a massive question in physiology, right? How on earth does the brain manage to fine-tune something as complex as your entire metabolism? Well, the answer lies in this remarkable chain of command, a cascade of hormonal signals known as the hypothalamic pituitary thyroid axis, or HPT axis for short.
The best way to think about it is like a thermostat for your body. The whole system is designed to make sure that the levels of thyroid hormone in your blood stay within a very tight, healthy range. And that's absolutely crucial because these hormones regulate everything from your metabolic rate and body temperature to your cardiovascular function.
Right, let's start at the very top of the chain of command. Our journey begins deep inside the brain with the master controller of this whole circuit, the hypothalamus.
So when specialized neurons in the hypothalamus detect that a metabolic adjustment is needed, let's say your core body temperature is dropped, they synthesize and secrete the small but really potent initiator molecule. It's called thyrotropin-releasing hormone, or TRH. This is the first signal.
Now, what's really clever is that TRH isn't just dumped into the general circulation. No, it's delivered through a specialized private network of blood vessels called the hypophyseal portal system. This ensures that the message is delivered directly and in a really high concentration to its target in the anterior pituitary. It's incredibly efficient.
Okay, so let's follow that signal down to the pituitary and see exactly how this initial command is received and then amplified. The TRH arrives at the anterior pituitary and gets to work on a specific group of cells called thyrotropes. Now, it's really important not to get these confused with thyrocytes, which are the cells in the actual thyroid gland. We'll get to those in just a moment.
So, in response to that TRH signal, the thyrotropes synthesize and then release thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, into the main bloodstream. TSH is a glycoprotein hormone, and it's made of two parts, an alpha subunit, which is actually common to a few other hormones, and a unique beta subunit, which gives TSH its specific job.
Let's just take a quick look at the molecular mechanics here. Because TRH is a peptide hormone, it can't just wander into the cell. Instead, it has to bind to a receptor on the cell's surface, in this case, a G-protein-coupled receptor, which then kicks off a whole cascade of signals inside the cell.
And this is a perfect example of signal amplification. You see, just a few TRH molecules binding to their receptors can trigger this huge internal response. It leads to this big release of calcium inside the cell, which is the ultimate trigger for synthesizing and then kicking out a much, much larger amount of TSH.
Right, so TSH is now traveling through the bloodstream. Its destination? The thyroid gland, that butterfly-shaped gland you've got in your neck. This is where the real action happens.
Now, inside the thyroid cells, these are the thyrocytes we mentioned earlier, TSH sets off another powerful signaling cascade. It also binds to a G-protein-coupled receptor, but this time it activates a different pathway, the adenylyl cyclase pathway.
And comparing these two pathways is really key. Remember, TRH used the phospholipase C pathway back in the pituitary. Now, TSH is using the CAMP pathway here in the thyroid. It just goes to show you how remarkably specific and versatile this kind of G-protein signaling can be in different parts of the body.
So the final products of this whole axis are the thyroid hormones T3 and T4. Now, the thyroid mostly churns out T4, but it's actually T3 that's the more biologically active, potent form. Most of the T3 in your body is actually made by converting T4 in other tissues, like your liver and kidneys.
Here's a crucial point. Unlike those fast-acting peptide hormones, thyroid hormones are lipid-soluble. This means they can slip right through the cell membrane and act on receptors inside the cell. They actually go into the nucleus, bind to receptors there, and directly change which genes are being expressed. This means their effects are much slower and more sustained, altering your metabolism over hours or even days.
Okay, a system this powerful has to have a brake pedal. It needs to be precisely regulated, and this is achieved through a classic mechanism in endocrinology, negative feedback.
So, let's think about what happens when things go wrong. For instance, in primary hypothyroidism, where the thyroid gland itself isn't making enough hormone. What would you expect to see?
Well, in this situation, with low levels of T3 and T4, that negative feedback signal is missing. The brake is off, so the hypothalamus and the pituitary are no longer being inhibited. As a result, they ramp up production, releasing more TRH and more TSH, basically shouting at the failing thyroid gland to try and get it to work.
Now let's flip that around. What do you think the system does when there's an excess of thyroid hormone floating around, a state we call thyrotoxicosis?
This really shows you how robust the feedback loop is. High levels of T3 and T4 slam on the brakes at two different levels. They suppress TSH production in the pituitary, and they also suppress TRH production back in the hypothalamus. This two-pronged inhibition is what prevents your metabolism from going into overdrive. So here it is, the whole circuit in one view. You've got this two-step stimulatory cascade pushing things forward, and then this powerful, multi-level negative feedback loop holding it all in check. It's a beautifully designed system, a perfect balance of go and stop signals. Ultimately, it's this continuous feedback that is absolutely essential for maintaining our metabolic homeostasis, making sure our body's energy use is perfectly matched to whatever it needs at any given moment.
And that's why truly understanding this core feedback loop is so fundamental. It's the key to diagnosing and managing the huge range of thyroid disorders we see, from simple hypothyroidism to complex autoimmune conditions. As we've seen, in this system, balance really is everything.